Hi everyone! Continuing the Aerosmith special weekend, this is the second song of theirs that I will be listening to tonight. And, well, actually I have a little story to tell you before I dive into everything else. Tonight I was going to put the baby to sleep and I was sitting there thinking, what was the name of the band that I was listening to, that I'm working on this weekend? Is it Aerosmith? Aerosmith. And it struck a memory and I realized, oh, that's easy to remember that name. Because when I was a child, a couple miles down the road, there was this older couple whose last name was Aerosmith. And my mother befriended them. We would sometimes take her bread or cookies or whatnot. And I remember they gave my mother a little saucepan once. I think I ended up with that saucepan. It's somewhere in my belongings. That name and just trying to get myself in gear for this listen tonight just brought back that little memory, and I remember, as a child, Mr. and Mrs. Aerosmith. Alright, on to the Aerosmith band. Well, before I continue, let me remind you there's always the option to check out my Ko-fi and Patreon pages if you wish to support my journey as I explore all this music that I've never dug into before. And you can find early access as well as exclusive access to music which can't go on YouTube for copyright reasons. So let's see what I have to learn about the song I'm going to hear tonight. Cryin was written by Steven Tyler, Joe Perry, and Taylor Rhodes. Did I get the names right this time? Steven Tyler and Taylor Rhodes. I hope I pronounced them properly. And was released by Geffen Records? Geffen Records? I don't know how to say that. You can correct me on that too. On June 20, 1993, as a single from their 11th studio album, Get a Grip. The single reached number 12. Oh, 1993. So that means 20 years ahead of the one I listened to before. Alright, so this is really leaping forwards. Be interesting to compare them. The single reached number 12 on the US Billboard Hot 100, ending the year at number 60 overall. The song is one of their most successful hits in Europe, reaching number 1 in Norway, number 3 in Iceland, Portugal, and Sweden, and number 17 on the UK singles chart. The song went gold in the United States for selling over 500,000 copies. Sounds pretty popular. Tyler described the song saying, "It was country, we just Aerosmithed it." Well, that sounds like it could be an interesting listen. Let's see how it goes.
So broken-hearted, love wasn't much of a friend of mine. The tables have turned, yeah, calls me in that way.
Okay, yes, I can hear a bit of the country influence. It has to do with the singing, the harmonies, and well, okay, the intro really almost startled me. It really hit hard. And I hear again some sort of nice, catchy, thematic material. Riffic material. I'm going to back up just because it all happened so fast and I'm not far from the beginning yet, so I'm going to listen to this much again and we'll keep going. Trumpets.
There was a time when I was so broken-hearted, love wasn't much of a friend of mine. that party. That kind of love was the killing kind. So listen, all I want is someone I can't resist. I know all I need to know by the way that I got kissed. I was crying when I met you. Now I'm trying to forget you. Love is sweet misery. I was crying just to get you. Now I'm dying 'cause I let you do what you do down on me. Now there's not even breathing room between pleasure and pain. Yeah, you cry when we're making love. Must be one and the same. It's down on me.
Okay. So, country music is something that is kind of around this part of the country. It's kind of just built into the atmosphere. And I've never been crazy about it. Every once in a while, I hear a little bit of something that I think, okay, that kind of has a nice sound. But really, I feel like so much of it sounds the same. And the topics are kind of repetitive and the same. You know, my truck, my girlfriend, my life is a mess, and, you know. This certainly has some country sound to it. But I was just sitting thinking, what did they mean by the Aerosmith did? Well, of course, this is only the second song I've ever heard by Aerosmith, so I'm not really qualified to say this is their fingerprint. I noticed a couple things, though. I noticed that, well, I noticed the driving percussion. That is a big feature of this song. I noticed the bass. I'm kind of getting pulled into the bass line, and it's not anything really experimental or grand, but it really just drives it along, and it's like it cuts a channel through the rocks in a way that makes me want to follow it. Da 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 dum, da 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 dum, da 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 bum 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 bum. You know, the way it, well, we have this term in classical music, and it doesn't even apply to all classical music, but the term is voice leading. Voice leading. What do we mean by that? We mean the way in which a voice is traveling from one harmonic center to another. And it's a highly developed craft and fine art to write with good voice leading. And there are all kinds of complex rules that we learn to follow if we're going to be making music in that style, in that form. This is just a bass in a rock, country-ish song. But I guess I would say it has good voice leading. The way it walks from one bass pitch and then walks down a bit and then carries you to the next one. It leads you along nicely, and I like that. And then what stands out to me as being not classically country is the fact this is not written 4 beats to a bar. It's written 2 beats, and each beat is divided into 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Da da bum bum da 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 bum bum da 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 da. And it gives it a sort of rolling, rollicking feel. And, well, I haven't even paid. That's the other thing I was going to say. So many things coming to mind all at once here. I promise I will listen to the rest of the song. But the other thing that I noticed is that this piece of music, even though the voice is quite a feature of it, the music itself is kind of what it's all about. I have the lyrics here in front of me and I'm reading along with them, but it doesn't really seem to be so much about the lyrics. What I mean is, when you're listening to the music, you're not really paying attention to the lyrics. At least I wasn't. Maybe that's a mistake. But the music was what it was all about for me, in this first bit at least. There was a time when I was so brokenhearted, love wasn't much of a friend of mine. The tables have turned, yeah, 'cause me and them ways have parted. This is so country. That kind of love was the killing kind, so listen. I mean, even the topic fits into the country stereotypical topics. And yet, it's enjoyable to listen to in its own way. And I think it has to do with the way it just rolls along and carries us along. And there is one thing about country music that I do find attractive in small doses. And that is the way the harmonies are primarily thirds and sixths. It gives a very sweet kind of corn syrup, molasses sound to the harmonies. Not a lot of clashing, not a lot of complex voice leading, just stacking the intervals according to the chord and letting it carry us along, thread us through. And we just fall into the harmonic scheme, which doesn't have to be complex at all. Kind of takes us back to the same type of harmonic structure as we find in, let's say, Vivaldi. If you listen to a Vivaldi concerto, you hear so many thirds and sixths among the violins, and the way the notes repeat and the rhythms build. It does have a very kind of pleasing sound to our ears, and that is a feature of country that, in small doses, I don't mind. And here, it helps to smooth out all this powerful drumming and big bassiness. All right, I've got to keep listening because I feel like I'm doing too much talking too soon. Back up just a little bit. I'll probably have a few more things to say.
Takes
So I'm just kind of on the roller coaster ride, up and down, da 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 da, and then suddenly, whoo! Okay, made me catch my breath there for a minute, because it really does feel like this sort of grand roller coaster ride or other kind of exciting ride where you're just up and down and up and down and the speed keeps going and there's not really a place to brake, and then we go up and whew, all achieved with just a bit of silence at a very well-chosen spot. They really took their time getting us into this groove and carrying us along, and we've kind of settled into it to the point where we're not really looking for anything else. We're like, okay, that comes, here's what comes next. Da 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 da. Okay, we had the guitar solo, but it wasn't terribly long, and we jumped right back into da 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 da. And so it almost felt as if it was winding up for the finish. And I could see on my sound shape here that the end was still a ways off, but it felt as if it was building momentum towards an ending point. What they were doing was they were just winding us up for that big launch, and then setting us back down to keep going. Let's just back up and listen to that again for a minute, because it was a lot of fun, and I'll point it out to you here on the score as well. This great blank spot, no notes, because everything beforehand, well, we're looking at the score. This is all happening at the same time, and then the next set comes, and then the next set comes, and then we go along and we expect to have a whole lot more on the page. And we do after this moment. But this moment is our up in the air moment. Let's hear it once more. Bass walking down there. Sounds like harmonica. Nice there, the way the harmonica had a little solo moment, and then the guitar stepped in to carry it over, and then the harmonica came in to kind of weave us back into the voice. There it comes. classic fade out at the end, isn't it? All right, well, so many different things that I noticed along the way. It is a very simple piece of music. In fact, I could say it's a quite commercial sounding piece of music. It doesn't have anything of any significant depth to it, but it's very enjoyable to listen to. It carries you along, gets you involved, and you have a fun time listening. I had fun listening, and I did enjoy it. As I said, country style music for me has to be in small doses, and I know this isn't purely country. It's clearly rock, and it's got a ton of drums in there, but it is the type of music that I would get bored with very quickly, simply because there really isn't a lot to uncover in it. But all of us need some easy to process music to just carry us through a task or liven a dull moment sometimes, and this could work. And obviously I enjoyed it on the first listen. I'd probably enjoy it on the second, third, and then I'd probably want a break for a good while. But one of the other things that I noticed was how they incorporated not just the guitar, but they used strings, brass, and harmonica. So it had a sort of mix of the brassy, edgy sound, the strings soften it, and the harmonica gives it a little bit of a folksy quality. And they wove it together very well. Like the first Aerosmith song I listened to, this one also, the musical material is very simple, and they simply build on it throughout the entire song. The bass doesn't do a whole lot of development of the bass, but it's a very solid, well-written bass part. The drums, pretty much bum 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 bum. Every once in a while, they come flying in with all sorts of I wanted to say noise, but I don't mean that in a negative way. But it's noisy, it's loud, it's exciting, it's a moment where, like at the beginning, oh boy, there are the drums. And the guitar, the voice, everything works really well together, and it's kind of fun. Now I want to go back to the beginning, because there's something in this music that I haven't mentioned yet. You might have seen my face light up when I was listening, but I chose not to say a word until I got to the end, because I wanted to get through the end, and then I want to show you something on the harp. So, this song makes use of a very popular chord progression. I mentioned Vivaldi a little while ago. Vivaldi is what we call a Baroque composer from a certain era way back when. And same as Bach, same as Handel, same as Johann Pachelbel. That might perk up your ears because you probably know Pachelbel's Canon in D. What's a canon? I guess I've talked about that before. I won't dive into it right now. But some people simply know it as canon or canon in D. Why D? Well, it was originally written in the key of D. It's not in D here in this song, but it's still the same sequence of chords. And I think if we start at the beginning, we can pick it out with our ears, and then maybe I'll show it to you on the harp, and you can, and on the page as well, and you can get to the point where you can identify it easily. This is the intro. You'll have to get past this. Trumpets.
There was a time.
Right here. Interesting that in that same moment that this sequence starts to come in, they use strings in the background. And Pachelbel's canon was originally written for strings, the acoustic kind, but violins, violas, cellos. And of course, usually the cello took the lead, we could call it, and gave the intro, kind of like the bass. Right? Well, here we don't hear that right away. What we hear is the string part. That's kind of where it stops. Let's see if we can pick it out with our ears.
There was a time when I was so broken-hearted. Love wasn't much of a friend of mine.
Kind of stops there and then goes again.
Yeah.
So maybe the last chord of the sequence wasn't timed the same way as in the canon, but it's pulled straight from there. And, well, this chord progression, ever since Johann Pachelbel made use of it, has been incredibly popular. To the point where we could say it's a rather commercial progression now, because basically if you use this progression, everybody's going to love it. It has a very, very pleasing quality, sound, and it's sweet to our ears. I'll see if I can play along with it here.
There was a time when I was so broken-hearted. Love wasn't much of a friend of mine. The tables have turned, calls me in them ways that parted. That kind of love was the killing kind.
That's where it changes. I'm used to going straight on, and it caught me there because I was ready to continue playing canon. But no, this is Cryin. Anyway, so that chord sequence features throughout this song. Now, where do we see it in the music? It's a little bit tricky. I showed you the cello part, the bass part, and the bass is actually playing it here, but it's a little bit tricky to pick out because he's not playing it in the exact same octave. But if I rewrite something, okay, here's where it begins, and this is our first bass note. But what I'm going to do is I am going to move this bass note up to here. Well, that's kind of hard to see. Maybe I'll make a thinner mark. Let's say this note is going to be here, all right? Now, what that does for us is it gives us the ability to see a interval sequence. We have this note, and if we were to count our way down lines and spaces, we have a line, a space, a line, a space. That is the distance of 4. Think walking down the stairs. 4 stairs. We end up on our next note. Now, the next one, well, we have the first one. We've just walked down 1, 2, 3, 4 to here. We're going to walk up 1. Okay? We find that right here. And if you don't read music, you'll just have to trust me that it is adjacent. But if you want to work it out, you're welcome to work it out. It's quite simple. And then we walk down 4 more steps. I'll zoom in. We have line, space, And sure enough, we've arrived on number 4. So we have up, down 4, up 1, down 4. We're going to have up 1, which we see right here. And then we move down 4 again, right here. And then we're going to move up 1 right here. And this is where I said it kind of pauses and doesn't really complete the sequence as we hear it in the canon. But if we follow this pattern, here's what we hear. That's the first one. Here's the second one. Third note. Fourth note. Fifth note. Sixth note. Now here, we would expect something different, but it goes, I'll take it up an octave so you can hear more clearly. And there we have the opening harmonic sequence to Pachelbel's canon in D, transposed to A major and used in a sort of, may I say, riffic manner throughout the entire piece of music, or practically the entire piece of music. And it's one of the things, along with the sweet thirds and sixths in the voice, that it gives this a pleasing sound and carries us along through this rollicking the time signature rhythmic pattern, and of course all the wonderful drums and bass and guitar and everything else. And there we have Cryin. Aerosmith. Mr. and Mrs. Aerosmith. Excuse me, no. Aerosmith the band. Well, that was a fun lesson. And if you think I'm being too hard on the idea that this is maybe not something I'd listen to many times in a row, I'll tell you also that I don't do that with Pachelbel's canon either. Although, anyone who plays a harp plays it many hundreds of times in their life for all kinds of events, especially weddings, because nearly every bride wants to have that as they walk down the aisle. I didn't.
Maybe from now on they will play Cryin by Aerosmith.
Maybe next time I get hired to play a wedding and to play Pachelbel's canon, I should mix in a little bit of Cryin just for fun. I would have to choose the bride carefully. A fun listen, and it's interesting to see how this has a lot of fingerprints that can be traced back to the first one 20 years before. At the same time, it's a bit lighter, more easy listening. And there we have Aerosmith the band. At least 2 of their songs. I'll probably return to them sometime in the future. I'll see you soon.